Okay everyone, welcome back to the channel for another video on Gran Turismo 7. I'm back with some highlights for you from the GT World Series manufacturer race at Daytona in Group 3. So obviously for manufacturers, I am driving Mercedes because that is a manufacturer I picked, so I do not get to change the car. However, for this race, the Mercedes was not the strongest. It was probably one of the weaker cars because of the straight line speed. Had a bit of a lack of power down the straight. It was pretty nice in the middle sector though, so we were able to stay with the pack through there, but on the straights we had no pace at all. So let's see how we get along. We managed to qualify quite well, I have to say. Managed to put it in P8. The lap was pretty good for the Mercedes. I think the other Mercedes in this race was last on the grid, or second to last, so shows you the lap was actually pretty solid. So starting the lap, on lap 1 we have to use two former tyres in this race. It was medium and hard tyres that were available for the race. I think soft tyres were used in qualifying, but for the race it was medium and the hard tyre. I decided to start on the hard tyre because I predicted a few people in front of us would have started on the hard also, as we have two cars nearly wiping each other out there. That was just a bit of a racing incident. I don't think there was anything malicious in that. It was just the coming together with the exit of the corner. So into this corner, we're not going to go for any silly moves on lap 1. We're just going to try and take it nice and smooth. One thing we had to do in this race was use a bit of Racecraft. If we want to get anywhere near what the points, I wanted 300 points from this race because I knew Mercedes was not very good. So anything around 300 points, I was going to take it and call it an early night. We were obviously streaming this race live, so you can check out that stream on the channel as well if you want to. But yeah, wanted to do a highlights video for the people that don't get to watch the streams, and they can catch up with the highlights from the race. So make sure you subscribe, hit that like button if you enjoy these videos. It helps me out massively. So going into the first chicane here, where it's all about trying to avoid the penalties. The penalty system on this track is a little bit erratic through here. I have to say I prefer the Watkins Glen chicane. It feels a little bit more predictable in the way that it gives out penalties there. At Daytona, you have to be ultra cautious, and that was my aim. Just try not to get any penalties in this race, and we might be able to get something out of it. Now, coming into lap 2, we can see all kinds of chaos kicking off in front of us. You can see it in the lead group. They're almost going 3 wide through here, and it looks like something's happened. They're not too sure what's gone on. And then as we come into the braking zone, we see a car going straight into the braking zone, straight into another driver, and 2 cars being spun off. Now, this, at first, I was like, what has gone on there? And I saw that someone had been given a 5-second penalty. Haku had been given a 5-second penalty. So when we watch it, we're going to ride on board with the Subaru here. Now keep your eye on the Corvette to the left of this Subaru, just at the back of that group. He misses his braking and absolutely sends it into Haku and also then into Cleesefall. Now Cleesefall is innocent in this. Didn't really have anything he could do. We're going to rejoin there with Cleesefall now. And then as he rejoins, he has to go to the right because the Corvette's squeezing him. And Haku, I think, just got annoyed at Cleesefall. I'm not sure if I think he thought that it was Cleesefall that took him out. And Haku absolutely wipes Cleesefall out. Now, I have seen that Haku has apologised for this, has said sorry, and he, I think he felt quite bad for it. At the end of the day, he should do. But yeah, he's apologised. Cleesefall, I think, is a bit like me. In the incident, as it happened, he was probably very annoyed, but after the race, it's over and done with. Not really worried about it from that point onwards. So yeah, it was not good to see, but Haku in front of us here, 5-second penalty, and we've got more battling going in front. I had a little look up the inside here, but decided to back out, but Wheeling just clips the rear of us, and then that gives a pinball effect. Nothing we could do there. Wheeling just hit us in the braking zone. So yeah, again, luckily he didn't take us out of the race. So we're now on the inside of Haku on this straight. Now, there's not much chance of us getting past this Subaru, but I had the slipstream to the Subaru, so I was just staying on the inside. But as soon as we get on the straight here, you can see that Subaru just goes straight back past. And Wheeling flashes us there, I think, to let us back in, because obviously he had just hit us in the previous corner. However, into this braking zone, we get another massive whack from behind, and luckily, we managed to keep it on the track and not get a penalty. So let's go back and see what happened there. So this was caused by Jack. I don't think, again, this is definitely nothing deliberate by Jack. This was just pure misjudged his brake. I've been there, I've done it. It's so easy to do, especially on this corner when you've got groups of cars like this. So he goes to the left, misses his braking, hits the Subaru, which hits the BMW, which hits myself. So again, Gran Turismo pinball physics in work with the pinball action, and Jack gets a 4-second penalty for that, and probably rightly so. And he also waits as well, though, which is great to see. He waits for the car that he took out. So fair play to Jack. He knew it was his fault. He made a mistake, and he still waited even though he had penalties. So that's good to see. I like to see that, and that's brilliant stuff. So well done to Jack for reacting like that after his mistake, because a lot of drivers would have carried on and just took their penalty. So we're going down the main straight. We see Haku there with his massive 5-second penalty. Now, I knew that that car would still probably beat us in this race because the Supra is so overpowered at this combination. It was just insanely quick. But yeah, let's see what we can do with the Mercedes from this position. We're up into P4, but technically we're not in P4 because of the way that, you know, some people will be on different tyres, and yeah, as the race progresses it's going to change around. But we're going to go to lap 4, and we've got Wheeling behind us. Now this was brilliant because Wheeling races very sensible, and again you can see he's not going to go for an overtake here now, because if we work together we're going to probably get better overall race pace than if we fight each other. So through the corners, the Mercedes was actually pretty good, so you can see through the corners we're able to build a bit of a gap, and then as we fast forward on the straight you can see that that BMW is going to gain in the slipstream. But again, the BMW and the Mercedes are two cars that aren't particularly fast on the straight, so it was probably better to work with each other at this phase of the race and just try and stay ahead of some of the cars that were behind us and try and keep this position, and, you know, see if we can get a top 6 out of the race. That was the aim really here, and get them 300 points. So into the braking zone again. Through here, Mercedes pretty strong. On the hard tyres it felt quite nice, this Mercedes. As the tyres got softer it was reasonable for here, but it was just lacking that speed on the straights. I think some of them power cars and the softer tyres became a little bit stronger. But you can see here we're working well together, and we're about 7 seconds behind P1, who had started on the medium tyres I think, and the two cars in P2 and 3 behind him were on the hard tyres. So it's going to be interesting. Now, one thing that I say though is the hard tyres are very strong on this game, especially after a couple of laps on the medium. The medium tyres do tend to fade quite quickly, so yeah, it's just I actually like what they've done with the tyres on Gran Turismo 7, because it actually feels like you get them initial laps that are a little bit quicker, but then they fade a lot quicker on the softer the compound. So yeah, it does seem to be a little bit more realistic in my personal view. You can see Wheeling again working with us, bump drafting us on the straight, and this is really helping us out, because you can see we're not really losing time to the leader in this race from this position. We're about 7 seconds, 7.2 seconds. On the straights we're going to lose a bit of time as we skip through to lap 8. You can see that the leader has pitted, so he was definitely on the medium tyres, and now we've got the two hard tyres runners in front of us, and you can see the gap's around 5 seconds. And again, this was working really well. Wheeling, bump drafting us on the straights. I knew he was going to do it, so we weren't having to go defensive, and we weren't losing time, and you can see we're just staying around 5 seconds to the group ahead of us. So this was perfect. This was working really well. We weren't taking any risks on the chicane either. We were making sure we weren't getting any penalties and driving pretty sensibly. This was what we this is how it works. If you drive together like this, these kind of situations can really work in your favour. You can see we've got a gap to the cars behind. We've got Haku, who is making his way back up through the field. You can see him in P5. He's obviously in the very strong car for this track, so he's going to probably be catching us up by the end of the race, because that car is insanely quick. So again, lap 9 now, and you can see the gap to the leaders, 4.8 seconds. It's staying around that 5 second mark. Different parts of the track we're gaining, you know, little mistakes here, good corners here. It's always staying around 5 seconds. So to the two cars in front of us, we're not losing a massive amount of pace, and it's a real shame that we obviously wasn't that close to them at the start, because we might have been able to hang in their slipstream also. But you can see there, we're going to skip through to lap 10 now, and Wheeling is going to go for a very early pit stop. Now, lap 10 was very early, because that means he's going to have to do 8 laps on their medium tyres. Now, I knew from the practice race that we did, the 8 laps on the mediums for my car was a little bit too much. Now, the Mercedes isn't very good on the tyres from my experience. It's the rear tyres it tends to kill. So this is, again, I wish we had brake bias so that we could alter that. So if we had brake bias, I'll probably go like -2, and it'd fix a lot of them tyre wear issues for the Mercedes. So we're going to go in the pits on lap 11. You can see we've also got a Jaguar behind us now that is absolutely flying. He was one of the cars involved at the start, I think, that with the incident when he got hit by Haku, when Haku hit Kalisful. I think he was one of the cars that got hit also. But you can see that he's obviously very fast in that Jaguar. You can see that Wheeling's undercut has worked there, but the good thing is we're in that slipstream still. And that's a very good thing, because we were on the hard tyres. He got a 1 lap undercut on faster tyres, but we're still in the slipstream to him. But you can see that also, you can see that Haku there is in front of Wheeling. So Haku also must have done an early pit stop of some sort, and now is fighting his way through and is up into P4. And from this point here, it's going to be very, very difficult to do anything about Haku, because the Supra is incredibly quick and Haku is a very fast driver. So yeah, Now it's just about staying in the slipstream to wheel him and hoping his tyres fade, which I was pretty confident that his tyres would definitely fade, and if we can just stay with him, because we knew that he would struggle to stay with that Supra, because that Supra was just insanely fast on the straights, which is unbelievable. You can see the Jaguar behind me also very, very fast on the straights. Even though we're in the slipstream, he's able to actually bump draft us on this straight. Now we're slowing it down now, because as we come into the chicane, watch the two lines here, me and Wheeling, almost identical. Wheeling turns in a little bit earlier, but I actually cut off possibly a little bit more of this corner than him. However, Wheeling gets a 1 second penalty and I don't. And again, this is what I talk about with the consistency of the track limits on that chicane. There needs to be some sort of work on it, I think, to make it a little bit more realistic. Like the entry to that corner, you should be getting penalties for what we're doing at the moment. You can cut a lot of it, but the exit needs to be a bit more able to go over the yellow part of the curb, I think, but not onto the grass, obviously. Just be able to attack it and enjoy attacking it, like Watkins Glen, absolutely perfect. Now, as we're coming down straight, as we go past Wheeling, the Jaguar goes around the outside. Now, he had an opportunity there to work with us and possibly get into the slipstream of P3, and unfortunately, he went for the overtake and he missed his braking point, and that lost us any chance of the slipstream to Haku. I think if we would have worked together there, we could have then got the slipstream, stayed pretty close to Haku through here, and then it would have been a case of maybe working together on the straight, and then he could have possibly have been close enough to get into Haku's slipstream on the straight and would have been able to get into that position. But yeah, that didn't work for him. Unfortunately for us, that's our slipstream gone, because once we had no slipstream to the Supra, there was no chance of staying with that car because it was just so fast on the straights. But you can see here, looking behind us now, as we're going down the main straight over the line to start lap 14, you can see that the Jaguar's a little bit too far behind to go for a move here, so he's going to have to stay behind us and possibly go for a move on the next lap. Now, I was hoping he wouldn't go for it in a corner that's just going to lose us loads of time, because at the moment we're in quite a good position. We're in P5. Now, I knew that we were going to lose this position to the Jaguar, so there wasn't really much point in me fighting too aggressively, and that's why I kind of lifted when he went for the move before and just let him go for it, because it wasn't really worth fighting it out and battling, because I want to make sure I stay ahead of P7 and P8 in this race, because Wheeling obviously had that penalty. He's dropped back a bit and he's got Cleesford behind him. I think was also possibly in the Jag, which was going to be very, very fast. So through here, just taking it nice and smooth and just hoping that he'd go for an overtake on one of the straights, because that is where it's going to be easy for him to go for a move. So yeah, into the braking zone, try and clip the apex of the curb, be careful on the throttle through here because it's very easy to lose the rear, and then work our way on the straight here. And you can see that that Jaguar is just going to go so much faster than what we can do here. So you see, look in the mirror and just watch how fast this Jaguar is. I decided to go up high and let him take the inside line, but it wasn't worth battling. It was better for me to let him go, let him get into the racing line, and then use his slipstream for a lap or a lap and a half to benefit my overall race pace. So that's what we do. We let him into the corner, and now we're just going to try and benefit from his slipstream. You can see through there, he makes a little error there, and now we're in the slipstream, and we're going to get a massive amount of extra speed from being in his slipstream, because his car is so fast down the straight. So we're going to benefit from this hugely in the Mercedes, because in the slipstream, Mercedes, although not the fastest car, you can see it's definitely, we're already going 167, which is way faster than what we've ever been in this car. And you can see 173, 174, and we were normally hitting this speed trap about 4 or 5 miles per hour slower. So we gained quite a bit there with being in the slip. And again, just making sure we stay behind him and don't hit him in the braking zone. So worked with him there, give him a bump draft, and just try and play this smart towards the end, because we are not going to beat that Jaguar. We could have battled with him, got ourselves back up into P5, but all that would have meant was we would have then battled, and then P7 and 8 would have probably joined the battle, and then we could have lost more positions. So I decided to play it very, very smart for the end of this race. You can see just trying to stay with him through here, make sure we don't make any errors, hit the braking points. You can see he's not too far away from that Supra there. This Jaguar looked very, very, very strong at Daytona, I have to say. And it wasn't just about the top speed, it looked very good on acceleration out of corners like traction. So Jaguar at this track seems like a very nice car to drive. So if it ever comes up in a daily race, I would say the Jaguar, the Supra are obviously going to be cars that you're going to look at using for this race. Subaru possibly, but even the Subaru didn't look as good as the Jaguar. The Jaguar looked immense on the straights. I was struggling in a slipstream to stay with him. You can see on the straights here, we weren't really gaining while we were in a slipstream. Now, obviously the Mercedes is a very slow car on the straights compared to a lot of cars, but it still does show you just how strong that Jaguar is. So again, as we work our way on the straight now, to finish lap 15. You see we're doing quite good sector times. We're actually half a second up here, although we weren't really pushing. I have to say we could have pushed these medium tyres a little bit more aggressively than what I probably was at this stage. I was just very worried about the rear tyres with this car because it does wear the rear tyres out and it was very easy to make a mistake, so I didn't want to crash. We're just trying to keep it quite safe here. We go over the line 45.1. That's like 7/10 off the fastest lap, and you can see in front of us actually that the Jaguar has actually just got the fastest lap of the race, so that shows you just how good that car is. Very, very strong car at this combination. But we can see behind us we've got a 3-second gap, 2.9 second gap to Wheeling, and that's pretty good because we know we've got 1 lap fresher tyres on than him. So all I've got to do now is just drive it smart. We're trying to stay in that slipstream to the Jaguar, but it's just not really working out. And then as we come to the lap 18, you can see the Jaguar managed to pull away quite a bit, but we managed to keep the gap to the cars behind us at the mark that we needed, around 2.5, 2.6, 2.7 seconds, and a pretty solid drive. Raced it reasonably smart. A lot of chaos at the start with all the battling and stuff, and the cars making mistakes and people taking people out, but we're going to go over the line for a P6 and some very nice points for this combination, because I didn't expect to get the 300. So to come away with a P6 in the Mercedes at a track I was tempted not to race actually feels pretty good and feels like a very strong result for that car. You can see there 311 points. Can't complain at that for a track that I wasn't going to race. So hope you enjoyed that video. Make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you for more live streams and highlight videos and track guides in the future. Thanks again for watching, everyone.